Good afternoon. Yeah. Good afternoon and blessings. You know, it's a beautiful day again here in Plainfield, New Jersey. I'm just feeling real blessed. I thank God for this opportunity every time because just to share some knowledge with you. You know, at least we perish for lack of it. We're going to try to make sure that that doesn't happen. I just always want to thank this young man here. He's a great brother, a Norm. He gives me the space to present myself, and I just thank him. And I thank my crew always for assisting me. You know, I'm excited today. We have a great show for you today. Bringing some students on today from a homeschool my group created strictly to introduce our young people from the cradle onward to learn of themselves before any other confused information seeps into their psyche. See, our lives as black folks consist of defending ourselves infinitum, just all the time, even when we're not aware of being placed in a defensive position. And as the apologetic amateur I am, it keeps me in a state of confusion. You know, when we hear declaration like, they are treating you unfairly because you are black, a young mind, an innocent mind, would want to know why. Black must not be so cool if we are being singled out. Well, I went to one of my advisors, Stephanie Stephen Bowen, my daughter-in-law, who happened to have studied a little psychology, to define that phenomenon for me. Must be one of those syndromes I'm talking about. She came up with a phrase, an expression called lexical, the meaning of expression. See, I never heard the terminology, but it sounded good to me. The meaning of expression, reasoning, why black is the optimum word. Then I grabbed another one I knew in my limited knowledge of psychology, cognitive recognition, which makes sense also because I watched a movie last evening where this black father was having, quote, the talk with his black son. You know the talk, how to act when approached by police. Now, the son got that advice, but I'm sure his cognitive mind was wondering, why? Because I'm black? Already he's left with the notion that there's something wrong with being black. See the damage that portends? Think about it. Now, again, this week, I also witnessed a high school student being reprimanded by his school for wearing natural braids to school. The inference is something is wrong with my hair. And while we will defend his right to wear his natural hair, he is absorbing the negativism associated with that remark. See the damage being done. Another expression, you are not light enough. I just heard Beyonce's father, Matthew Knowles, declares his other daughter, Solange, is extremely talented, maybe even more gifted than Beyonce, if that's possible. But the point he made is because she is of darker hue, totally melanized, she doesn't get the opportunities that Beyonce got because she's dark. If that is part of your cognitive reality, it doesn't really matter what kind of confirmation or affirmation you get from family and loved ones. The damage is already baked in those assumptions. Now, you begin to wonder and doubt your worth, which will wear and tear on your psyche. Now, that's what I know as an amateur. What you think our experts could do with that. But even from that assumption, from my little assumption, I know, though, even from the amateur point of view, one of the solutions is to infuse positive, correct, historical information into our young at the early stage. So when their little brains are bombarded with this nonsense, confusion, the psyche will also have already been prepared to accept this dichotomy. So what I have started, my group and I, a homeschool academy for our young, for our family members right now, K through 6, to study themselves, the original person, without the excuses, the explanation, the defense of their beings. The name of our homeschool is Williams ACAP. Williams is in honor of my father, the ancestor. And ACAP, the acronym is Akubalon Cultural Academy of Plainfield. Akubalon was the name of Africa before the European renamed it. Now, this school that I started just for my family members, but I'm going to suggest that black people across the board bring children together and start teaching them their history. You start small. Let them read books of Africa. You know, they're taking the books that are being removed from our schools anyway. Watch programs on Africa on TV. Check out other programs and places already geared toward African studies. I had a guest on my podcast recently, my cousin, Darrell Batts. He introduced me to a program he's involved in, which is called, I can never pronounce the name, but I hope I'm giving it justice, Olada. It's a virtual cultural exchange amongst students from Africa to our students in the United States, teaching each other about the history and the connection. It's a great program that I will have my students interacting with them soon. And I'm looking forward to it. But right now, I'm going to bring my co-host on, Professor Kamal Kenyatta, teaching African Studies at Lehigh University and Northampton Community College in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Welcome, my brother. You heard me talk about the importance of creating spaces for our children to learn about themselves from the earliest. What say you?
Good afternoon, Sister Ruby. It's good to be with you. And I see the children and their teacher here.
Oh, yes.
It's good to be with you. What say I echo what you say. I ditto what you say. It's important that we begin to teach our children at a young age when they are malleable, when their minds are opened and impressionable about who they are as African people. And that is our responsibility.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, you know what, brother? I'm going to bring my students on right now. Lula, are you ready? All right,
yes, I'm ready.
Yes, you're ready. Let me introduce the instructor, Lula Williams Salvador. She just happened to be my sister and one of the producers of the podcast. Lula attended school at Union County College and Seton Hall University. She's a homeschool teacher for family members up to 10th grade. She's one of the co-founders of the Women in Support of the Million Man March. She's a daycare teacher. She was a daycare teacher at WISM, Women in Support of the Million Man March. A daycare teacher at Black United Front, Buff. And she's going to bring the students on, and we're going to welcome her. She's a little bit shy, so here, let's give her some love.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm very excited. This idea of eliminating our history from the school system has awakened many people, and especially African people. So when we decided to create this space to introduce our children to their African heritage, I became very interested in it. I said, yes, I want to be a part. And so, I said, count me in, and I'm in. But our aim is simple. We are going to introduce them, the children, that is, to the history of their Africanism, who they really are, and from the beginning to now, And we, of course, expect them to carry on and hopefully they will be, some of them will be the experts that we're looking for. So we are looking forward to that. What I'm going to do now is they're going to do the Black National Anthem. And then right after that, they will what you're gonna do, you're gonna give a brief account of the country in West Africa, where most of us came from. We were brought here stolen, enslaved. Of course, we're gonna go into all that, later. But right now, you're gonna do the Black National Anthem. When you do the anthem, I want you, Holly, to bring them in for me, okay? I'm just gonna move out the way and let you all stand. Just give them something to come in on.
The piano?
That's the key. Because I'm on the stage. Just sing. You don't have to sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let us resound till victory is won. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so we are going to.
Yes.
Okay, you can be seated now. And I'm going to start with you, Sanai. I'm going to give me a brief count on what you know about West Africa. Go ahead, you can read it.
Benin. The Benin Empire was one of the oldest and most highly developed states in West Africa.
Very good. And Chastity.
Nigeria, a country in West Africa, gained independence in 1960 and became a republic in 1963. Beautiful country. Before colonization, it was known for its empires and kingdoms.
Very good. Abby,
Ghana. Ghana is a country located on the west coast of Africa. Rich culture, heritage where many of our people were stolen from. Senegal. Senegal is a country in West Africa on the Atlantic Ocean coastline. A beautiful country with beautiful beaches, Senegal is home to a beautiful pink lake.
Right.
No, Harleen.
Chloe.
Niger. Niger is the largest country in West Africa. The Sahara Desert covers more than 80% of its area. Mali was one of the greatest empires in West Africa, is known for agriculture and mining. Mali is a beautiful city in West Africa.
Very good.
Ivory Coast. Côte d'Ivoire gained its independence from France on August 7, 1960. The largest church in the world is in Côte d'Ivoire, and the country is known for its amazing beaches.
Very good. Thank you. So you have it, Ruby.
Okay, I tell you, that was excellent, children. I tell you, we're just going to continue to do that. I know you're all excited, right? You're going to be learning a lot about Africa. We started with West Africa, like one of you said. That was where we were. Majority of the our people were stolen from, but there are other areas also. We're going to be learning about all that, and we thank you, Lula, so much. That's been very informative. But this is an idea of what our children will be getting from the very beginning, because we want them to start from where it started. We want them to know from whom they are, so when they get to where we are now in the Americas, they will have known that they were great people, and there's no reason for excuses or condemnation. They are who they are because of who they are, the very best. So we thank you all so much. You all continue to study, all right?
You're welcome.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. You continue to watch. Okay, brothers. Kamal, you can come back in and tell us a bit about what you think about the exercise there.
Oh, I think the exercise was very, very good. The children there did very well. It was loud and clear. I appreciate them. How old are the children there? They look like they're
I'm glad you asked that. K through 6, but the young man, Elijah, he's older. Elijah is a teenager, 13. He wanted so much to be involved with this. But that's how Lula and I have set it up, K through 6. We will involve other, because he, like he said, he doesn't know anything that much about Africa himself. So he wanted to become a part of it. And we're going to have him, because he's one of the members, we're going to have him, and he has enjoyed it. They have all been very excited, just learning the little stuff that they learned over the last couple of weeks.
Yes. I wish that when I were their age, even at 13, I wish I knew what they're being exposed to and what they're learning, because I was well into my 30s before I really began to zero in on it. So where they are now is at the perfect age where they can learn this material, and it'll stick with them. It'll be with them forever.
Yes.
They'll always remember this information, and they'll learn more information as they go along, and it'll become even more complete in their understanding and become part of their personality as well.
Yeah, that's so good advice, because I want to bring you in. You remember, I wanted you to, I know you have done this on a larger level, on the college level, but I want you very much to be part of what we're trying to set up here in terms of trying to create the avenue by which we can move toward the continuation of what we need to know about Africa.
Okay, all right. Well, one of the ways in which, particularly at that age, the stories, all of us are prone to listening to stories. We love to hear stories. When someone says once upon a time, we all perk up and we zero in on it, because it sparks our imagination. So, for example, the children there, you all can still hear me. You all can hear me, right? The children, y'all can hear me? Good. Have you all ever heard of a person by the name of Sundiata? You never heard of Sundiata? Okay, let me tell you this story about Sundiata, and it's a true story. Sundiata was born a prince in the empire of, at the time, ancient Ghana. He was one of the sons of the king of Mali. And he was the youngest son of the king of Mali. But there was a problem with Sundiata. Sundiata was born not perfect. He had some physical defects. And the griots of Mali, the griots are people who kept the history, the story of the people, the family that was there. They knew the whole story about the family, and they were beside it. One of the griots told the king that this son, Sundiata, was going to be the one that would be the king after him. The king did not believe the griot. So he said to the griot, how can it be that this son who has deformities, has imperfections, how is it that he's going to be the king when I have all these other sons who are great and they would be good people to be the king? The griot said, this is the one that is going to be the king. The king could not believe it, but he accepted the word of the griot. Now, Sundiata, as I said, some of the birth defects that he had, he could not walk until he was around 7 years old. Now, all of you all could walk before you were 7, right?
Right.
Yes. He couldn't talk. He was basically, as they saw it, useless. And he overheard his mother complaining to another mother in the village one day that my son is no good. He can't even bring me leaves from the baobab tree. Now, the baobab tree is a very important tree in Africa. It's a beautiful tree. And Sundiata heard this. And so he went to the baobab tree, and not only did he manufactured created a rod so that he could lean on the rod and walk over to the baobab tree. And when he got to the baobab tree, he not only took leaves from the baobab tree, but he pulled the entire tree up and dragged it over to his mother. And from that point on, he began to develop. He began to start walking and talking and all of that. Then something happened. Their father died. His father died. And the other brothers began to fight each other over who would become king. And they were going to kill Sundiata so he would not be a threat. But his mother took him and she left the town. She left the city and went to another place to protect him. And she told him as he was growing up that his destiny, that his future was to be the king of Mali. She didn't know how that was going to happen, but she told him that. And they lived among other people in other villages and towns who took them in, and they respected him because he was a he was a son of a former king. Over time, a long time, he grew into a strong young man. He grew past 13. What's your young man name here?
Elijah.
That's 13. He grew to be 13, Elijah, and then he grew to be 15 and 16, and he became good and strong. And the kings that he lived among, they showed him how to fight, how to be a warrior, how to be a man. And he grew up, and over time, his mother died, and then there came word from Mali, of the ancestor, the leaders of Mali, that all the other sons had died, and that he was the only living descendant of the king. And it was his responsibility to come back to Mali and rule it. But there was a problem. There was a very bad king who had taken over Mali and had taken over the people and didn't treat them really well. You know what I mean? And so what Sundiata did was he started to go back toward Mali from the places from where he was. And as he went back to through the places, the villages and towns where he had lived growing up with his mother. And these people began to follow him, and he developed this big army of people. And he gets to Mali, and the king there sees him, and they began to fight. But Sundiata couldn't defeat this king because he had some power. And so what he had to do, he went to the griots and he asked the griots, what can I do to defeat him? How can I beat him up, is in other words. And the griot gave him a secret word of what to do. And with that secret word, he would be able to defeat this bad king. And that's exactly what he did. He went in and he defeated this king. And he became the king of Mali. And that was the beginning of the Malian Empire. Somebody read something about Mali earlier. Mm-hmm. I think the young lady with the little red, that has a red collar. Which one of you read about Mali?
Which one of you read about Mali? One of you?
Yes, I thought it was you. I thought it was you.
Munchie. I call him Munchie.
Munchie.
Uh-huh.
And so this is that place that I'm talking about, but it's the beginning of that place. This was a long, long time ago in Africa. Mm-hmm. And this king became a very great king, Sundiata. He dismantled the military, and the people in Mali became great farmers because the land was very fertile and they grew cotton and corn and other foods and so forth. And it was a very, very profitable and beautiful place. And the people loved each other. And that is part of the story of the king of Mali, Sundiata. He was the first king of the empire. There were many others after him. And another time I'll tell you about another king there. His name was Mansa Musa.
You've heard of that one, right?
And Mansa Musa was known as the richest man in the history of the world. But he comes from that place called Mali. That is part of your history. That's part of what your people have done, because many of our people were kidnapped from there and brought here to America many, many years ago. And you are the children of those people.
They call our ancestors, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So when those stories that Brother Kenyatta just talked about, the one he just told you, just so prominent in our culture. We are storytellers because we tell the story, then they're real. Like he says, that's reality. But they're done in a story form because of you all young people, you like that kind of, you like rap music. And that was very important in the initial rap music. It's a story, how we tell our story through our songs or whatever. So you all understood that one well, right? So when you talk about the particular countries you're about, we're going to be bringing Brother back on to give us some more stories about different realities about parts of Africa that we don't know about.
Now, let me ask them a question. Is there a microphone on?
Yes.
Okay, now, what was the name of the king that I talked about?
It was, it started with an S.
Yes, it's with the S. It's spelled S-U-N.
Sundiata.
Sundiata. Sundiata. Yes, Sundiata. And where was he a king at?
Mali.
He was the first king in Mali. And when he defeated the bad king, what did he do? I didn't say it properly, probably. What did he do with the soldiers that had fought the war?
He protected them in his city?
He protected them, but they became something else. They began to do something else.
Oh, they became farmers.
Yes. He made them into farmers. And do any of you all know anything about farming?
Yes.
You know something about farming? Huh?
Yes. Yeah, I have a green thumb.
Well, you got a green thumb, so you know how to make stuff grow, huh? That's very, very good, and that's very, very important. I grew up on a farm with my grandparents in South Carolina. And something that my grandfather used to say to me all the time, because I didn't like doing the work on the farm. It was like, man, I don't want to do this and stuff. And my grandfather used to say to me, without the farmer, everybody dies. Why would everybody die without the farmer? Somebody with a green thumb. What's your name in the purple, the little girl? What's your name?
Chloe.
Chloe, what would happen if something happened to the farmer, if there were no farmers?
They wouldn't survive because you cannot survive without food.
Exactly. Very, very good. Very good. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't be able to survive because farmers provide us or give us the food that we need to eat. And so like Chloe is doing, learning how to plant food so that we can eat ourselves is the first rule that we have to apply to ourselves. We must be able to feed our own selves. We can grow our own food and eat our own food. Does that make sense? That makes sense, right?
A lot of sense, right?
Okay. All right, that's my lesson for today.
Okay, someone had a question.
Seeing you all.
Someone had a question there, brother. Someone, Elijah had a question. You got a question, Elijah?
Okay.
Do I see your hand up?
It's frozen.
Oh.
The picture's frozen.
The picture's frozen. Oh, okay, because he had a question there. Yeah.
Well, maybe it'll freeze in a minute. They probably can still hear us.
On their end, yeah.
You had a question?
Yeah. Well, anyway, can you all still hear us? If not, we'll go on and talk about what we're going to continue to do in the future. I said that I'm going to suggest to black parents everywhere, seeing what you see us doing here. We're doing that because we know it's going to start from home. There are people other groups who start their children knowing their history right from the cradle, right from home. And so if they get out into the world and the world is not giving them what they're supposed to have, which is never done with us, we know then at least we will have gotten it from the home. So
right. And the thing that the parents are going to have to do is they need to learn these stories themselves.
Yes.
And we start with stories because, as I said, all of us are attracted by stories, and we remember stories.
Okay.
We remember them. Now, in my classes at the college, I tell the story the same way, but then I go into it a little bit more in depth for their age group and so forth. But everybody remembers those stories. Now, that story of Sundiata, you can buy the book on Amazon. It's called The Epic of Sundiata.
Okay.
You can buy it. It's available. It'll go in a lot more depth and detail than what I did in the story. But that practice what I did in terms of what we need to do. We must talk to our children about their greatness.
Exactly.
The accomplishments, not about what the bad things that happened to us, as I think I said some time ago when I was on here, because the enemies of our people are going to tell them the bad things. We want to tell them the good things,
exactly,
the beautiful things, the accomplishments. So you have many of these stories. This story should be a movie, made into a movie or a series,
exactly.
Actually. Story. But you have the story of Sunni Ali Bear, Payamagan, Queen and Zinger, Queen of Shepsut. You have all of these people and these stories that we can fill our children's minds with and our people's minds so that we can begin to see ourselves differently. When we see ourselves differently, we will behave differently. See, we do a lot of what we do now, the dysfunctional stuff that we do now, we do as a result of what we have seen, and we imitate that.
Right.
We imitate it. So we have to change the narrative.
Exactly. And in addition, not only do we imitate, but it's been pounded in our brain over the 200 years about us being nothing, nobody, so you can't really expect any different if you're told that there's a psychology behind that. And I was trying to explain in terms of the way I phrase we have these syndromes. Well, all of this, there's more to us than the physical. They're mental. And when we are being bombarded mentally over 200 years, I mean, we're great people. I always say we're great people, but we're not infallible. We can be damaged. And when we have been damaged over the 200 years, we're going to have something that's similar to many other great catastrophe. It's just interesting how when anything happens, something happened the other day. I was kind of minor as far as I was concerned, but it required someone saying, well, we got to bring the psychologist in to have the kids just sit down with them. It was a little minor thing, but it was deep enough for them to know that they needed someone in to help them go through whatever it was. And I'm saying to myself, now we know that if it takes that just to go through this little minor thing that I call 200 years was never minor, nothing minor about it. And if we ever got to the understanding that this is something we're going to need to deal with, otherwise we're going to always have these different syndromes that we're dealing with, and we can name them for whatever they are. But if we don't identify them as such, we'll just go around thinking that we're that way. We came over here this way. And something tells me that we have studied our history enough to know that when we were stolen from Africa, we were stolen as people of means, of greatness, of whatever. So if we now, 400 years plus out of it, and doing what we're doing in situations that we're in, disproportionately to everybody else on anything, something had to have happened. And if it happened, then someone needs to be able to tell us what it is, how to get out of it, what to do about it, and how to claim it. And once you claim it, you can discard it. But if you never know that something happened to you, you're just going to say, well, we are who we are. We're doing this because of...
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the central ways you do that is going back and changing and not changing the story, but telling the complete story. Mm-hmm. So, like, for example, this story of Sundiata, the fact that he made the people into farmers, that tells us something about how we operated as a group of people. That combats the idea that Black people don't work together.
Right.
So just that. And see, what I'm saying is you have to plant these seeds of new images in the mind of what we were. So these people, he made them into farmers, and they became, and most people don't know that in the area of Mali, they became some of the best cotton farmers in the world.
Right.
Their system of farming. And so now how does that relate to us being over here? It tells us in part why the people wanted to kidnap us, because we had a skill of doing this that they didn't, and they wanted to be able to do that over here.
Right.
So the idea that combats the idea that we just came from jungles and nothing and so forth. No, and when you see the pictures of the people from the time, they're wearing these colorful clothes. They got the different designs on them. Where did they get those clothes from?
Mm-hmm.
The cotton. And what does that tell us about them? They had skills to be able to plant cotton, harvest it, be able to make it into thread, be able to make it into cloth, then be able to color it and design it. We had all of these skills. So when somebody like I forgot, I think it was DeSantis who said, well, black people got skills out of
It was
slavery.
the scientists. Yes, it
We
was.
didn't
Yeah.
get skills out of slavery. We came here. Y'all brought us here because we had these skills. So if you tell our children these stories, when someone says something like that, they know, man, he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's not true. And they can tell them why it's not true.
That's why it's so important to start them at a very early age and knowing their history in the way that we know the history. You know, you can tell a kid anything. But if you know the true history, then you know from whence to judge what other folks are telling you from. You know, you're going to hear the negative, you're going to hear the untruth from other people. But that's why it's so important. I mean, just so important to start the kids from a very early age to know the history, the true history, because we can say whatever we want. We can say, I noticed back in the day when we were talking about us, our skin color, our hair, and our parents or our loved one may say, no, don't pay attention to that. You're beautiful. You can say that all you want to, but if you don't know the depth and the exact ways that we've come about learning negative of ourselves, you think that person is just being nice. Right.
Demonstration goes much further than words, because if you say to a child that you are beautiful the way that you are, but they look at you changing yourself,
yes,
it says to them, well, I look like you, but you don't like the way you look. You're changing yourself. The child is going to imitate that. So if you say to the child, you're beautiful just as you are, you know, like when my ex-wife was on, we were talking about the hair. Yeah. If you say that your hair is beautiful the way it is and that, but you're straightening it and putting weaves in it and putting wigs on, you're saying, then. Child hears that. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Yes. That those words that you said don't mean nothing. What you are doing speaks volumes.
Yeah. Volume. And that's one of the things I try to convey about the experts. I always try to explain that when I get on, the amateur versus the expert. Some of this stuff is going to take experts, and not just experts for experts' sake. Experts who have studied the whole psychology and everything else around how you get there. You know, because I can say it until I'm blue in the face, and if there are those out there who don't receive it in the way that they need to receive it, there must be then some other way we need to, impart this information to people. That's what I'm trying to get to the root of. And I always make the comparison. I like to do the analogy of other things. Just say the virus, from whatever it's worth. I mean, I'm not getting political on this. For whoever believed in it, didn't believe in it, doesn't matter. I'm talking about what happened. 2 million people were killed over a short period of time, over a 2-year period of time. But we didn't assume that someone out there just going to automatically know what to do to try to get to the bottom of it and then give us a cure for it. We knew it took special people who studied the virus specifically, virologists or the epidemiologists or whoever would do it. We knew it took those people specifically to get to the root of that, whatever come over us, so they can create the cures for it. So with us, ours was much more, we were much more damaged over the 200 years, plus the other 200 of Jim Crowism and ongoing racism. So something tells me we need that same kind of concentration. We need specific people who not only can point out what's wrong with us. Someone said to me, I think I told you, won't call her name, a brother that I respect very highly, just overcome with his scholarship, but he made the point that all we needed to do was know our history. And I said, I don't agree with that. I say, we need to know our history. You know how much I am involved with knowing history. I said, but it takes a little more than knowing our history. I said, because I know the history of the virus. I do know the history about, what happened, the bubonic plague and all that kind of. But nobody come to me to think I'm going to give a solution for the virus. I may know the history. I know the history of us as we know it, but we didn't need to know how to get underneath and beyond what we've been through over the 200 years, because it was more than just our history. It was what we went through the abuse and the trauma and whatever else that we went through since we came out of Africa. That's what I'm referring to, is to get to the bottom of how things going to reverse with our situation.
Right. The focus there, and I'm going to talk about the focus in a few minutes. But yeah, just like that story, and I'm using it as an example of what I told. A simple story like that has so many layers that we can add to it. The economic piece, the organizational piece, showing a different a different image of ourselves than what we are commonly bombarded with.
Yeah.
That begins to work on the psyche, the imagination, and everything comes from imagination. See, if we're imagining bad stuff kind of comes about. You have to reimagine ourselves, and that's what we're doing with the children. Because see, they're going to be the ones that are going to actually take that thing forward. But going back to focus, we cannot, it would not be wise, I would say, for us to try to do everything at one time, because as you said, the long history of the damage, there's much to be done. But what we can do, and any successful people or person, is they focus on one thing. So if you want to do something really great, you focus on that one thing at the exclusion of everything else. Then when you achieve that, you can begin to address more issues. The word focus, as an acronym, means to follow one course until successful. FOCUS, follow one course until successful.
And that focus probably would be, you're correct. That one focus of us now is to try to imagine ourselves in a condition that needs attention. Focus on that. Don't go along anywhere and focus that we are in a condition that needs attention, the same as any other major catastrophe that has happened to anyone at any time.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So imagine if we decided that the focus is going to be like what you're doing, is to educate our own children. That is our only prime. I mean, we still got everything else of life to attend to, but that is our focus, to make sure that we can educate our children. And we do that in a generation, we will have raised up a whole different kind of people.
Oh, yes.
Just in that. Now, then we can begin to address some of these other maladies that have been inflicted upon us. But, and it could be anything, but if I were to say, hey, what do we want to focus on? So, like, and I'll use the example of the Japanese. And these are people who this country dropped the atomic bomb on them, blew them to smithereens, that leveled the place. They were destroyed back into the Stone Age. But in less than 40 years, they became the third strongest economic power in the world. That was not by accident. That was by design. And the design was they decided that they were going to focus on the economic piece. And what they did is they began to send their children and their young people to the colleges and universities in the United States and Germany and other places with the sole purpose of rebuilding what they learned, bring that knowledge back to Japan and build. So if they were in New York and they saw a bridge, they would take that bridge, picture of it, and let's rebuild that bridge here. They did the same thing with televisions. RCA back in the day, and American television was the big thing. They would take an American television and take the whole thing apart, completely apart, and rebuild it, but rebuild it better. And so, as I pointed out, when I was growing up, if you saw something made in Japan, it was a joke. It was like, that ain't but junk. But if you see something made in Japan now, you know it's quality. That's an example of of a people focusing on one thing.
But that's a good point you just made. But I want to follow up on that. The same as with the Jewish people. They got their country. But
many examples.
But with the Japanese, when they were bombed into smithereens, they were killed. When we were brought over in the Middle Passage, millions of us was killed. But in addition to being killed, see, they were just killed. They were not, their language wasn't taken from them. Their history wasn't taken from them. Their culture wasn't taken from them. Nothing. So, but when we were brought over, instead of just being killed, maybe we would have been better off, but just being eliminated, we were stripped. You know, I talk about the Lamborghini. You know, that's my analogy. My Lamborghini, my fleet of them, and they were stripped, then broken into with the glass broken, and after that the rain came in. So that's us. We was not only killed, murdered, we were stripped of everything, our language, our history. So we got to recoup all that, while the other person, like our Jewish friends or the Japanese, all they needed was just to get back a little bit to where they were. They had everything intact. We had nothing intact. And once we learn that, we can never in the world compare ourselves with anyone else, because we have to tell people first is that what we're talking is not an excuse, an explanation. Other folks will be an excuse. If they had not come back and, done better, it might have been an excuse. They didn't try hard enough. They didn't do this right enough. Ours is not an excuse. Ours is an explanation about what happened to us, and we have never been able to deal with it in any kind of way other than being condemned by it. We never been tended to. We never been treated. We never been looked at to say, I wonder what that did when they saw their people hanged and couldn't cry. It's something to crying. One of my subtitles of my book, my book, Why Shouldn't I Cry? And the subtitle is Ode to the Black Man. But that's what it means. Why shouldn't we cry about what happened to us? It's a release in a way that we know that things have happened. We never was allowed to do that. So we're going to have to tend to the maladies first before we can expect to be compared to any other person in the world, is what I'm trying to promote.
Right. The point about the Japanese...
Just a minute, my brother. I'm looking for my call-in. Brother Norm, where am I calling? Okay, go on, bro. All right, I know. Okay, thank you, Rose, for calling in. Look at Rashida, Tavia. Oh, my goodness. Don't want to miss my folks now. Glad that you all call in. Lloyd, I don't see him up here yet, but I know he said he was going to be. Dara, look at that. Sheila. Yeah, that's Lloyd. I'm with your mom. Robert, Tiffany. My goodness. I'm going to miss all those folks. Don't want to do that. All right. And you know what? While I got this opportunity, I'm going to be on a show, not this Tuesday, next Tuesday, the Sister Tiffany. I'm going to be on her show. Tiffany Barker, thank you, man, for calling in. She has a great show. It comes on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. I'm going to be there.
It's called Making Me Matter.
Making Me Matter. I heard that, and I'm going to be there. So you'll be sure to tune in to Tiffany Barker's show on not this Tuesday, right, Tiffany? Next Tuesday coming up. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, go on, brother Kenyatta. We got some minutes left.
Yeah, I was saying that in terms of using the Japanese, I can use the Indians. The point is the singleness of purpose. Mm-hmm. The singleness of purpose, despite the situation. And this is applicable to the individual life as it is to a collective group of people that focus on a particular thing that they want to accomplish. Because there is the rule in the universe of cause and effect. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we are, when we look at ourselves, we're seeing an effect. What caused that? We know what caused that. The kidnapping of our people, put into a bondage situation, that caused the situation that we're in. Now, as people made in the image of the Creator, we can create ourselves. We can create. We decide, just as the divine did, to speak forth something and bring it into existence. This is what we are, and what you're doing here with this piece right here and addressing the children is speaking that into existence. We speak it into existence and we begin to act on it. But do we start with this and then go to something else and to something else? See, then our energy, the power of the universe is not behind us because now it's scattered. See, the universe operates just like, and if I use this as an analogy, there are different analogies, like a genie. If you say to a genie says, hey, you have one wish. What is that wish? And you wish that, and then right before the genie gives you that wish, you say, no, I want to change. And you keep changing it. The genie can never give you what you want because you're not clear about what it is you want. So we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we want?
And we are not clear about it only because we have been bombarded with a whole lot of stuff hitting our brains on all kind of different levels. Malamagania again. You know, with the air, with the weather coming in, the rain, the whatever, it has somehow affected us in a way that the other person has not been affected. The Jewish person, when they was in the Holocaust, again, they were done badly. They were eliminated. When the Japanese was bombed, they were eliminated. But that was then. But when they regrouped, they had everything intact that they could work with. But we had nothing intact. That's why we went into so many different directions and so many different areas of thoughts, because we have been stripped of everything. And there's all kinds of syndromes affected with us now. See, the Willie Lynch syndrome, the Stockholm syndrome, the abusive child syndrome, the imposter syndrome. You name it, we got so many syndromes, and we know it came from those years of being brutally unlike any other human being in the annals of history. Now, I see my time is just about up, so I got to say this. Otherwise, my producers, you can enjoy this program by listening to BKS1 Radio or seeing me in person on Facebook or YouTube. You can bless this program, too, by sending a donation to Cash App, $ Ruby Shivers, and Zelle RubyShivers158@gmail.com. I sure appreciate all of you. We enjoy this, and I enjoy you, Brother Kenyatta, every time you come on. You're going to be with me for the rest of the month, thank God. And we're going to be, so we're going to be talking some serious stuff. But beautifully, they play the piano. You out there, keep watching this show. We're going to try to keep the information coming. Because the scripture that said, Hosea 4:6, my people will perish for lack of knowledge. I'm one that's going to try to keep the knowledge going. I want to thank you very much, brother. And Norm, I want to thank you always. And we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.